four speakers here, and I'll introduce them later. And after all, this entire festival is connecting people, bridging borders and things and all. So here is one first to start with. I'd like all of you to unveil this book from one of our panelists, Mr. Mahendra Joshi, a book, and congratulate him for coming up the continuing series of his first book, Rolling Rolpa. And here is this one is another book, is like third edition of this book. Yeah. So we congratulate Mahendra Joshi, the author of this book. Thank you. Okay. So yes, as we say, the proof of pudding is in the eating. So we have been wherever we are. So we might be away from home, but we have been writing about home. We might be away to America or in Australia or in India, but we write our emotions. We write our experiences. So another book I'd like to start this session with. I was reading Thomas Bell, who was a student in 2000s, and he was about to go to Africa to explore things. And he thought, well, everyone has gone to Africa, and why should I also follow the similar trope? So he wanted to explore something different. And he came to Kathmandu in 2002, and he wrote this book about all, I was amazed to read this book, like so many information that we from here, from Nepal, didn't really realize. He has explored so much and written this book about, right? So it's only the politics that divides. It's only the border is more of like we create this kind of image. But in emotion, in literature, in arts, in drama, in writing, we unite. So in today's session also, we have two authors and who have published book in diaspora. One is Joshiji, who has written a book, this one, Rolling Rolpa, and another Samirji, who has written a book, is also translated into English, and one literary agent, very prominent literary agent, and another is publisher. Let me read. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Rahul Soni, who is a writer, editor, translator, and senior commissioning editor at HarperCollins India, an associate editor with the journal Almost Island, and programs coordinator at the Sangam House International Writers Residency. Rahul has previously been associated with the journals Partilipi and Asymptote and the literary agency Writer's Side. He has edited the anthology of Hindi poetry in English translation, Home from a Distance, and translated Srikant Verma's book, Poems Magad, right? And also Gitanjali Sri's novel, The Roof Beneath Their Feet, and a selection of Ashok Bajpayee's poetry, A Name for Every Leaf. A literary agent for many books, such as Ranjan Adiga's Leech and Other Stories. We have another figure here, Kanishka Gupta, who is also a writer of a novel, he says, long ago, History of Hate, and publishing commentator best known for his hugely acclaimed series for Scholar called Publishing and the Pandemic. By far the youngest agent working in South Asia, he is the founder of Writer's Side, the largest literary agency and consultancy in South Asia. Kanishka has been credited for single-handedly popularizing literary representation in the subcontinent. Samirji Sumit Sharma is his official name. He's an author and a podcaster from Kathmandu, Nepal. He has over 2 decades of experience working with a range of national and international non-government organizations. Samir is a graduate of London School of Economics, UK, and the Queen's University, Canada. He is a distinguished Castle School Fellow and was honored with the Star of Loyola upon completing his undergraduate studies at Loyola College, Chennai. His first work of fiction, Wake Up Ali, talks about migration and borders, a widely discussed theme for our time, and was honored with a KLF Book Award in 2022 in the debut fiction category in India. Similarly, Mahendra Joshi holds MPhil from Kathmandu University in Development Studies. He got his master's degree in liberal arts and diploma in cinematic arts from the USA. His published novel, Rockin' Rolling Jolpa, Now America Explore Nepal, is amongst the best-selling books in Amazon, which is also listed in Hollywood database. Recently, his new book, Full Proof, that I was talking about, is almost ready to come to the market. Also, he writes column for various national and international newspapers. Now, moving on, I'd like to start with the questions now to discuss. And also, okay, we have later 10 minutes for question answer. So we would like to have your answers in brief. To simply start with, what does crossing border mean to you? Let me start with Rahulji. In publishing, I mean, yeah.
I mean, border is a very laden word, right? It can have many meanings. It can have any meaning that you would like to throw at it. And crossing borders, of course, indicates that permeability and that openness to other things, whatever you choose to call other, I guess. In the context of publishing, I guess what it means is that we should be trying harder, I guess. Although we do some publishing from around the world, from around South Asia, but yeah, I think we all need more of that. We need to hear voices from other countries, from other regions, from other languages, and yeah, that's something to be aiming for, I guess.
So I have always viewed myself as an agent representing books from the subcontinent and not just India. It's just that the other parts of the subcontinent, for whatever reason, they don't have a very evolved, publishing ecosystem. I don't get too many submissions from writers from other parts of the subcontinent. And I want to make some observations about Nepal. So I have noticed three things. One of them is that I don't receive many submissions from, aspiring first-time Nepali writers across genres. The second observation is that when I receive submissions, they are mostly in the genre of nonfiction. You have politics, some like policy, politics. They are very prominent. Travelogue, or you get literary fiction. But I haven't seen too many genre fictions. I don't see too many experimental writings emerging from the country. And the third thing I've seen is that uh, the diaspora of the Nepali writers living abroad, I don't think they are getting published in the international markets as much as authors from other parts of the subcontinent. I don't know whether all of you follow publishing, but currently Sri Lanka has been experiencing a golden age in publishing. One of the authors, One Sri Lankan author won a Booker Prize in 2022, Shehan Karnatilaka. And this year, two authors have won major prizes. Sugi Ganeshanathan has won the Booker Prize for women's writers, called the Women's Prize for Fiction. And Vajra Chandrasekhar, who's a speculative, sci-fi fantasy writer, he's won one of the highest prizes for writing, which no other writer from the subcontinent, including India, has won. I think it's the Nebula Award. So these are my observations, but I always encourage submissions. I want to take these books abroad. I want to take writing from Nepal abroad, but I don't receive too many submissions. It's like, I have like Amish Mulmi on my team, who's also a writer. He'll introduce me to writers. And now one can't say that there is not much awareness about publishing or agents, because I mean, if you just look up agents in India, I mean, you'll see so many links, articles. Many of them have been written by me. So I think maybe it's the system. I mean, maybe writing in English is not encouraged as much as it should be, or writers are writing but they don't perhaps want to get published. They are just writing as a hobby. So correct me if I'm wrong, because your perspective will be interesting to go.
Thank you, sir, for the question, and thank you all the audience for turning up over here. Answer this one from the writer's point of view. I can help you, right? Because I've already written 2 books. So my book, as I'm being a panelist, because my book talks about cross-border issues. So I'm answering this question from a writer's point of view, because in my writing, I've talked about America. I mean, talking about the borders, it's about 8,000 miles away from Nepal. So over there, I talked about like the American culture, which is cross-border. And for that reason, I have to adapt to a character from USA. And I will talk about the drawbacks of writing cross-border literature. Is my point of view. The narrative in my book is an American. So, and sometimes like when I got this book to my American friends or reader, like they ask me like, how can you write from the American perspective point of view? But like since I stayed 6 months, so I did a little extensive research about the character, and more or less, after getting like some reviews, with the reviews I corrected some of the issues that need to be addressed. So like when I'm writing about cross-cultural issue, I have to be very careful, because I have to be very precise about talking about someone else's culture when going outside Nepal. For me, outside Nepal is crossing the border and all those. So like and sir rightly said, he's not getting much writings from Nepali authors. So that could be one reason, like Nepali writers are not really want to get into writing and get writing out of borders, which is a little harder part to do, because we don't have much of experience exposures outside. So hopefully, like with how the exposures are turning out, how people are traveling, they will probably write issues regarding this. I'll talk about more authors who have written about cross-cultural issues and all those. So I'll talk that in the next question. So this is how things are turning up for me. A little bit of struggle, a little bit of hard work, but it eventually pays off. For me, it is paying off, because they're just applauding the thing I did, like how I just connected American culture with Nepali culture.
Well, thank you so much for your question, and thank you everyone for turning in this session. Well, I mean, I think from the writer's point of view, we can cross border in different many ways. You can cross border physically and then get in touch with different diasporas. You could have your own experiences. You could have a sense of losing home. You could have a sense of displacement. You could have a sense of longing for your home when you are not at your native place. That's one way of crossing border physically. And then when you interact with different sort of culture, you imbibe some of the other learnings from the other culture, and then you over a period of time grow, mature, come to learn so many other different aspects of the other cultures. That's one way of doing it. Second way of crossing culture is also not physically. In terms of imagination, you can cross your culture. You can elevate your writing. You can engage in a lot of research elevate your writing, connect dots across different many cultures, and then you can physically be in your own native place, but simultaneously cross your culture in terms of imagination and how you pull things together from different other cultures and how you elevate your story at that level. As a writer, I see that you could cross cultures in different many ways. And as Rahul rightly pointed out, is crossing borders is extremely Latin word. I mean, you could have different many interpretations as much as you want. So, but that's what it is for me.
Oh, thank you for your response. Now we have two sets of like scholars here. I mean, one set is like writers, authors themselves who have been writing from other perspective and learning about other cultures, being other places, talking to other people. And we have the literal agent, and also we have publisher. So one set of question to the writers: how have your worldview, I mean, how have this kind of learning about other people's cultures, visiting other places, have impacted in your own writing? Or don't you think you can write in Nepali and that can be translated into English and other languages? Or do you think it has to be in English when you write from diaspora? For Samirji. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, of course, you can write in Nepali and get it translated into English. My first work, in fact, I wrote it in Nepali under the title of Prabhas, which was later on, translated into English and was published from Delhi. You don't necessarily have to, uh, confine yourself to language. What is more important is what you feel confident on, what you can flawlessly feel right about, right? When I say flawless is in terms of confidence, in terms of your grasp on language, in terms of your grasp of putting your thoughts neatly into the paper. So language in that sense matter when how confident you are, or how well versed in you are in your language. Other than that, we have a lot of translation that's been going around. I mean, a lot of different literatures has been translated, not only from Nepali. I have seen a lot of many Hindi literature is also translated to English language, which is called Booker Prize. In fact, Kanishka has taken up that work. Gitanjali Sri works, Red Samadhi, got translated into English and won the Booker Prize. So language matters in a sense when you have a deep affection, when it becomes flawless. Then, in fact, if you write in Nepali, it elevates your work to a much bigger level,
Sure, sure,
rather than trying to
sure.
cope up with the things
Sure.
that you don't have much
Kanishka
grasp
ji,
on.
your experience in representing writers from authors from different parts of the world, different languages, different genres, actually.
Yeah, so like I said, I represent a lot of writers from the subcontinent, and I do represent a lot of uh, writers, diasporic writers, like from Pakistan, India, Nepal, living in the UK, US, that I use for any other writers. Like for fiction, we look at the quality of writing, the storytelling. Is the writer trying to do something new, or if it's not something new, is it being told in a different way? And while uh, fiction writers need not necessarily have a big profile, I would love to work with a fiction writer who's published short stories, or extracts from the work in progress in international publications, one like shortlisted for like short story prizes, or even first novel prizes. But for non-fiction, we clearly look at the credibility of the writer, whether or not they are known for reporting on a certain subject, writing on a certain subject. So my experience has been pretty good with the South Asian writers. My only issue is that one of the reasons why publishers in India are increasingly reluctant to take on authors from other parts of the subcontinent is not because they are not interested in those stories, they are not interested in the writers. I would say that some of the writing from Pakistan and Sri Lanka is somewhat better and more original and refreshing, at least what I've seen in the last few years. But the issue is related to money, finances, distributions. Publishers keep complaining that we are not paid on time. There's a completely broken distribution network. So there is very little incentive to you know publish authors from these markets unless they are global household names. Like a Muhammad Hanif or a Kamila Shamsi will not have a problem uh, uh, finding a publisher in India, but a new Pakistani writer will have major issues because there is no way for an Indian publisher to sell books in can't even go via another country. I mean, if the book is printed in India, they can't they can't sell the book in Pakistan. Whereas that problem is not there in uh, with writers writing in writers from Nepal. There are a lot of issues with the payment cycles, distribution. So that's a major issue, I think.
Thank you. Mahendraji, how does our characters resonate? Your writing actually resonate, the context resonates with the global audience while you write from that perspective, like in your own writing.
When we have to select the character, we have to be very careful because the protagonist is going to tell the story. And like the theme has to be very vivid. What do you want to try to prove? Because if you lose concentration or if you lose track of your writing, and the author, the readers might sway away and they will just be away from the writing. So we of other books also in a very brief, like as I've already said, I use the character from American perspective, and not being an American, it was a challenge. But I just wanted to connect the culture. So I was trying to connect the culture that is in Nepal to that of America. So I was pretty much narrowed down. So those things were getting a little easy for me. I don't want to have a very broader spectrum. Just want to narrow down, maybe pick 7 or 8 cultures, do a little intensive story because study because I was in USA for 6 years. So for the 6 years time, I know writing. I will have to be very confident. And when the first draft gets released, I have to make sure like whatever culture I have addressed, they should be approved by the American. I was very much inspired by Khalid Hosseini, where he connected Afghanistan with America. So in my case, also I have connected Nepal with America. So these things really worked out for me. And over there also, Mr. Hosseini also talked about like the war disputes and what America tackled them, all those immigration laws and all those. So they were actually the fact, and the culture was not much challenged over there. So these were like the thing. Do a little intensive research, talk to people. Once what you are writing, you should absolutely know it. Otherwise, like it might bring you into conflict.
Thank you, sir. So I'll come to Rahulji. See, pen across borders. So we'll come to the theme again. Borders can transcend through translations as well. Yes, translations as well. Like 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Translations as well. So how has been your experience, like uh, to the new, I mean, to the authors whose work can be translated and all that? How do publishing world look at it, translating the work, literary works?
Um, so I do literary publishing. It's a very small corner, as we were speaking about it yesterday. It's a very small corner of publishing. It's not a particularly lucrative one. Um, None of the big publishers make money from literary publishing. It's through other books, it's through nonfiction, it's through self-help, it's through all of that. But we do have a commitment to and a belief in the fact that literature can cross boundaries, b change lives, make us better people, more empathetic people, all of that. And to that end, translations are, I think, completely essential because is the only way we can get access to stories that are outside the small, privileged, elite English-speaking world. That said, I mean, there's a lot of conversation around translation nowadays. It's become a thing that people think they need to do. There is there's a worthiness associated with it,
Sure.
but that has not necessarily uh, translated into sales. The readership remains what it remains for any literary work, whether it's poetry, whether it's prose, whether it's short story. And part of the reason is that what Kanishka was saying, there are many challenges, not just small, but also how we are able to access these markets across various territories. Um, there are challenges in distribution. There are payment cycles to contend with. There are politics to contend with of crossing borders and trade. Um, but yeah, there are some prizes now that have been instituted that are very prestigious. There's a more educated reviewing culture around translations, perhaps not a lot, but it has improved definitely over the last 10 years or so. Yeah.
I think the huge difference between the time Tomb of Sand, sorry, God of Small Things won the Booker and Tomb of Sand won the International Booker. Uh, Arundhati's, after God of Small Thing was published, there was like publishers and agents were going after Indian writers, and a lot of Indian writers got signed up with major agents in the UK, US. They got very high advances. Must be like 20, 25, if not more. I happened to go to the Frankfurt Book Fair for the first time a few months after Daisy and Gitanjali won the International Booker Prize. So what the prize has done for translation fiction from the subcontinent is that publishers are more open to, you know, uh, uh, reading these submissions. There's a lot of eagerness and openness, but it hasn't really translated into sales. And this also applies to Daisy's own translations, her previous translations, and some of Gitanjali's own translations of her own works. It hasn't been easy. So publishers, they look at a book and how it connects with them, and whether or not it will find a readership in the UK US markets. So that's my experience. So it's very different from the God of Small Things moment. It was like a watershed moment for South Asian writers.
Still encouraging. Thank you. But what are for your, like, looking at the time also, would you all speakers, would you please tell our young writers audience that what is your say for them to start, to continue writing? What are the opportunities and challenges in the market, in tips?
So I think writers should not be in a hurry to reach out to agents and publishers, because once you've submitted a draft to a agent or a publisher, especially a publisher, because unlike the UK and the US, uh, Indian publishing ecosystem, they are open to receiving submissions directly from authors. So if someone in Kathmandu, for instance, knows a published or a well-known author, that author may introduce this new writer to a publisher. But if your draft is not uh, like final, or if it is not well edited, then there is a chance that it might get rejected. So I think authors should not be in a hurry to uh, submit their books to agents and the publisher. They should also understand that the commerce behind it, and that the standard print run for books in India is 3 to 4,000 copies. So the advances are also going to be quite low. If you are writing in, if you are a Nepali writer writing in English, majority of your books are going to sell in Nepal, unless the book has got international acclaim. I think this applies more to Nepali writers than to some of the other writers in the subcontinent. So I think they should not be in a hurry. They should also read a lot. They should also uh, like ask themselves, why do they want to get their work published? Are they doing something new? Are they saying something new?
Yeah, in this moment of like fast move and migration, what's the, if one chooses that theme, what do you see the future of it in this
Migration. I
cross-cultural
mean, well,
issues?
I think there's been a lot of diasporic stories and migration stories that's been written for the last 30, 40 years. I mean, it's going on around, and the market and the appetite of the readers is still there if you talk about the diasporic stories. But the time has come, I think, now the regular work is not going to resonate to the larger audience unless we really work hard to bring in extra laden value and a remarkable work. People are not going to read it, and I, as I just published one book, and I'm pretty conscious of what I really work hard, read a lot, come up with something really special. It's so competitive that it's really difficult. All I can say is that we just continue to strive and read quite a lot to come up with good quality work.
Mahendra if you
For the budding writers, I want to give a suggestion. I want to borrow word from Mr. Gupta, like don't be in a hurry, but I want to add that be consistent. Because when I ended up writing, I was just making sure I write at least one paragraph a day, which turned into a page a day. And then in a month, I had a very rough draft ready. So I still like don't be hurry. Like do multiple reviews of your draft, keep going, and if you have picked the right theme and if you can ignite the readers, because you have to do a little peer review and give it to some of the potential reader who might be interested and get their reviews. And don't be in a hurry, but be consistent, and consistency will lead to success, and you will become a published writer. And we have wonderful gentlemen over there. Please get connected to them. We have literary
Yeah.
agents and
please,
publishers.
last words,
Also,
please.
last comment, publishers also expect writers to be savvy. They want them to be aware of the competing titles in the market. They want them to be savvy on social media. They will be very happy to receive a good submission from a writer, first time writer, who has some sort of a marketing plan. And all marketing plans don't entail a sort of a spend from the side of the author. But it's important for authors to be open to like traveling to festivals, having conversations with journalists. So I think like like writers should be open to being available for promoting their books, and this applies to literary writers also.
Sure, yeah. So Rahulji, last words from your side to the
Um,
audience, then go for a couple of questions.
Nothing more to add to those bits of wisdom from all around here, I think. But yeah, most important was what Kanishka you mentioned earlier, that little bit in passing. Just, I think writers or anyone who wants to write needs to also introspect on why they are writing, what they're trying to do with their writing, and why do they want to publish. There is a lot of writing out there. There is a lot of books out there. Not all of them are good. Most of them are not, in fact. Do we want to add to that? Or are we actually bringing something of literary value into the world?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is wonderful listening to you and meeting you all. And yes, you're listening to your insights on how writings can connect people's cultures, human emotions, and all. And yes, if now, thank you very much for the panelists. And also, I'd like to take a couple of questions from the audience. If you have some specific questions to our panelists, please feel free to raise that. Yes, sir.
My name is Virat Anupam, and I have read book by Sumit Sharma, and I want to ask questions to him. You have written a very beautiful book, Wake Up Ali Wake Up. I went through your book, and I was part of one of the programs of that book talk in K&K International College. So I have one question. You are Nepali, but you are writing migrant stories of Canada with your protagonist from Pakistan and India. So being a Nepali, you have picked the characters from Pakistan and India, and they are in very good relationship, unlike what we see in politics and diplomatic domain. So why did you pick that topic? Uh, Either you want to make India and Pakistan friend, or you want to have a bigger market with the biggest South Asian diaspora from Pakistan and India. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Virat. I think you had asked me the same question in the past as well. So I think, well, I mean, there's been a lot of writing that was concentrated by Nepali writer that was focused on Nepal's ongoing changes, particularly in the last 30 years, and so primarily focused on the politics and all in the domain of fiction. So I thought, why not to sort of elevate and try to see and experiment what happens if I try bringing in the characters from the South Asian context. And as you said, it was not an attempt to sort of bring India and Pakistan as such, but definitely my attempt was to write something that would resonate to the South Asian people and the countries. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Monita, and I'm a children's literature publisher here in Nepal. I do not have a specific question, but a general question, because India and Nepal, we share so much, how much we can learn from India. And especially because children's literature is in a very infant stage, I would say, in Nepal. I think I would love to know how long would it be okay for a publisher to get back to the author or your agent for the confirmation of the manuscript? How long would it be not rude and not too early? And also, when we work on a book, what would an ideal period be? For me right now, I mean, with the whole process and sometimes with the difficulties, it takes even more than a year to bring out a children's literature book. So what would the ideal practice be there at your place? Thank you.
What kind of children's books are you publishing? Are they like picture books, or are they?
So we focus more on picture books for early childhood up until middle school, but we also have some for young adults as well. Thanks.
So if the author is approaching you with a young adult manuscript, then perhaps you should not take more than 2 to 3 months from the time of inviting the full manuscript. I'm sure you don't invite full manuscripts from authors. You invite like a synopsis and maybe 2-3 chapters, and if you like that, then you will get back to them, with a confirmation of interest. But if it's a picture book, then it really depends on whether or not the illustrations are ready, because if someone reaches out to you with just the text, and they expect you to find a illustrator or an artist for the book, or if they don't know who the artist is going to be, then you can take your time to get back to them. So I think and as far as the publishing timelines are concerned, it really depends on how design heavy the book is. A young adult book should be published, like any text heavy book can be published in 8 to 10 months from publishing, from acquiring, and maybe a picture book you can take 16 to 18 months, I guess. But I've also heard that a lot of publishers in Nepal, they come to India to get their books printed. Like one of the most important major publishers, Ajit Baral, gets his books printed in Nepal. So I don't know how the dynamics of printing work in Nepal, and whether or not there are reliable printers. So that's my answer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. Maybe the time we will meet later. We can continue our discussion. And yes, we thank you all, and we thank the organizers for having us here for this discussion. And yes, here, thank you so much, Asmita, for having us here. Yeah,
Thank you
please
very much.
stay
We
for
are
the
so
answers.
honored to have you all here. We'll just take a 1 minute of all. So I'd like to call our friends on the stage, and I'd like to request Uday Adhikari sir to come on the stage and appreciate the Dr. Kashiraj Pandey and Mahendra Prasad Joshi with the letter of appreciations. And we would like to appreciate you all. We would like to appreciate with the typical Nepali Dhaka topi, so it would look like, I think it suits you. I did not want to interrupt, but time. So up. ताली बजाइदिनुहोस् भनेर मैले अनुरोध गरिरहेको छु. Thank you very much. गजबको ताली दिनुहोस् रे. गजबको ताली, नयाँ ताली हो यो, गजबको ताली. लगतै हामी ढिलो नगरिकन अर्को सेसनमा गइहाल्छौँ हामी टाइमभन्दा अलिकति ढिलो नै भइरहेछौँ अहिले पनि Thank you so much. We are honored to have you here. Thank you so much. This is